you pray before the test, I pray during the test.
That's
Yeah, you know what? Like I found like many times, it's my fault, right? That I only think about God. Sometimes I only remember Him when I need something, right?
So if Jesus was sitting next to you in class,
Oh.
what do you think He would say to you?
That's a good.
It's an interesting question.
That's a good. If he was sitting next to me in class.
I would be cooked. To encourage everybody who's watching to just learn to strive to learn more about God.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't, even if you're a non-believer and you're watching this, I want to encourage you just take that one single opportunity to open to take it to let your curiosity take over and learn about God.
Absolutely. So
Hi everyone, so I am Bandana and I would like to welcome you all to our little conversation here where we'll be talking faith and a little bit about teen life basically. So over here I have some people joining in with me in this conversation and I would like for them to introduce themselves at this time. Go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Sabine and I am 17 years old and I am a senior in high school.
Hey, I'm Bardon and I'm also a senior in high school. I'm 18.
hi, my name is Trishana. I'm also a senior in high school and I'm 17.
Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about, ourselves, and I know that you all mentioned that you're now a senior in high school, and it can be a little hard, being a teenager, and I want to know a little bit about how you balance your faith with being a teenager.
That's a good question. So, how I balance my faith being a teenager and a Christian, and I recently became a Christian 3 years ago, and I would say I struggled a lot in the beginning, right? It's kind of hard to because I'm starting to go to church and all this time that I used to have for myself is being taken away. And I'm like, I really don't like it. But as I began to learn more and more and I started to enjoy the time that I had and I started to prioritize my time, right? So during the weekends, I would focus on God and I would dedicate that time to God. So on the weekends, separate time for God. And then during the weekdays, then I would have time for myself too. I have 24 hours in a day, right? 24 hours in a day, that's so much time for myself. I can take school too, 8 hours for school. And then I have multiple hours, 5-6 hours to do what I want. And then, at least just 1 hour, 30 minutes for God. I try to do that now. Obviously, it's a struggle. Even just 30 minutes a day is hard, but that's what I try to do. Just, time management. Very hard to do, but working on it.
That's excellent. Okay, moving on to Bardon.
Yeah, so unlike Sabine, I've been a Christian and I've been a believer since I've had consciousness. My parents were converted into Christianity when I was like 2 or 3. So ever since I knew I have been a Christian, and I've lived in the aspect, and I've lived in and out of church, and balancing that with my life as a human being and as a teenager especially it can be pretty hard sometimes. But it's really, for me, it's really looking through the perspective of faith at everything, because I think many times we have decisions we can make. We can either go for the easier option, or we can live through the harder option but that's more loyal to God, right? There's been many times in my life where I've had to make that decision, and like I'm gonna be honest, like I've many times made the wrong decision too, but it's really about learning from your mistakes, and it's about striving towards God, right? I mean, look, as a teenager, you have so many pleasures in life. Your friends will be doing so many things, and many of the things you can't do. Many of the things we have to be loyal to God, and it restricts us from doing those things. But it's really about striving towards those things. Maybe once or twice you can make that mistake, but don't make it 3 times, because if you're doing that, you're choosing to make that mistake, right? So I've told myself I haven't been too strict on myself, because I don't want to force myself to go to God. I want to go with passion, but at the same time I don't let myself. I try not to let myself make those same mistakes again. Yeah.
I want to ask you all, how do you see God in your daily life, like in school, or is he just part of your Sunday service, or do you ever talk to him before a big test? How do you see God?
So God is a big part of my life, right? Not just in congregations and on fellowships, but in the day-to-day life too. I notice myself praying a lot before a big test, right? I get scared. I'm like, oh, what if I fail? So every time I have a big test, I always pray. I'm like, Father, please help me on this test. Please make sure I pass, even with, whatever, just the best I can do. So I just try to, make it work. I definitely try to prioritize them in my daily life. What do you think for that?
Well, you pray before the test. I pray during the test.
That's
Yeah, you know what? Like, I found, like, many times it's my fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I only think about God. Sometimes I only remember him when I need something, right? So I've been, like, realizing that I do that. I've been trying to incorporate him, like, more with the attitude of attitude of gratitude,
mm-hmm.
rather than just going to him for something, going to him for, like,
right. Dude, I agree so much with you, because sometimes I know I don't, like, always pray before the test, right? I try to pray before the test, but sometimes I notice myself forgetting to pray, and then I pray during the test, and then I feel like I'm just only praying because I'm facing this struggle,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like, that's what it feels like.
Do you pray after the test?
Yeah, actually. No, well, no, I don't pray.
You don't pray?
I don't pray after the test. I agree with both of you guys. I do exactly what you guys do. I pray before the test and during the test, even, like, if I haven't studied for it, because, like, I, like, realize that I seem to, like, think about God, like, especially, like, when I need it and when I feel like I can't do this, and I feel like I'm not gonna be able to do this, and then
mm-hmm.
he's, like, someone I go to, and
Yeah, talking about that, it's not just tests, right? Like, I noticed it's also, like, just daily life in general, right? We have struggles, we all face our own, like, individual, have our own individual experiences, and in those experiences, I noticed myself praying a lot to God when I face that struggle. When life is good, I'm sort of just chilling. I sort of push him aside because I'm doing so good. And then as soon as something falls on me, right, I do something bad, and then I start noticing God, and then I, like, suddenly look towards God, like, God, you are the only one who can fix me. And then when it's good, I'm like, okay, forget about it.
So we're talking about struggle right now, right? So I kind of want to ask you guys another question. So what's one struggle that you face in your day-to-day life when you are living out your faith, basically, in school or, like, among your friends?
So one struggle I face, or it's rather a process rather than, like, a specific struggle. So I'll give an example, right? So when you're on a diet, right, you have a healthy option and you have an unhealthy option, right? And in the long scheme of things, you want to choose the healthier option, but at the moment you're like, one thing won't do anything, right? One candy bar won't do anything, but it's gonna affect your health and affect your goals. And I think that's also something I deal with in my spiritual life. Some small things, some small, like, unfaithfulness or disobedience to God, which is still bad. When it's so small, you think it's not gonna do anything, but it starts building up. You start, like, becoming more and more disobedient, and I find a hard time, like, overcoming those small things. Like,
mm-hmm.
like sometimes going to church can be kind of boring for me, and sometimes I'll be more inclined to skip, and sometimes, like, focusing during like sermons can be kind of, like, boring, and I'll probably doze off or, like, be kind of bored. But I think, yeah, you have to think of it like
mm-hmm.
like the long scheme of things.
Right.
That's how I
agree.
It's really about, like, taking the decisions that are better in the larger picture,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to ask, does being a Christian as a teenager make your life any easier, or does it make any harder?
I think there's a little bit of both, right? Mm-hmm. It's also easier because you have such a strong community of support, as well as, God himself, who's also there to support you. But it's also harder because as being teens, we all have our own, sort of, I guess, in this teenage world, everybody has their own sort of thing. Everybody does their own sort of thing, right? That's when you are just introduced to this world, and there's so many influences, so many things, so many new experiences, and I think that's where it gets hard, right?
Yeah, and peer pressure is a huge thing too.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Do you ever feel like you have to hide your faith, or?
I feel like as teenagers, you're trying to be something, You're trying to like as teenagers, you're at a point where you want to be something, but you haven't developed a strong identity, right? So you're not fully adult yet. And it's even right now when I'm 18 already, right? I also deal with this right now. You're trying to be something, like you want to be something, right? And sometimes the things you want to be doesn't align with your Christian life. I feel like because as teenagers you want to be something, like you have to pick and choose what you want to be,
You're right.
And it's hard picking the right things. Like sometimes as teenagers you get peer pressured, right?
Right.
Sometimes you want to do some things that you shouldn't be doing, but guess what? You'll still do it because at the moment it'll seem right. And I guess you shouldn't be too hard on yourself because you're a teen, you're learning. But push yourself to be better, right? That's what I think, because it says in the Bible that living a life as a Christian is very hard, right? It's like going through a narrow road, and it's better to go through a narrow road to heaven rather than go to a wide road to hell. That's my mindset.
And adding on to that, I feel like you kind of feel like an outcast when you're like with everybody, since you feel like so different and you want to blend in and you want to like do something, like if everybody's like, it's like a trend like we're all following, but then like when they're not following, and like when you're choosing the narrow path, you kind of feel like an outcast, and like you don't seem to blend in, and like which makes you feel like like an imposter. But like I can't explain it.
I think
get that.
Yeah,
I get
right.
that.
I was gonna say I really do agree with that idea, because like, especially now in today's society, like I notice a lot of people are sort of falling out of Christianity or just religions in general, right? With this new trend, and like I notice myself I have more like, I guess, non-religious friends than I do have Christian friends, right? And because I have all these non-religious friends, it's sort of hard to just be my religious self around them, because I start talking about, doing my religious stuff, talking about God, and they sort of start distancing themselves from me. So if I want to keep those friends, then I sort of have no choice but to sort of blend in and appeal to their,
Okay, so this kind of leads us to our next question. I want to ask you guys, what's one way you can be a light for God at school or among your friends? I know that there's a lot of peer pressure and the pressure to kind of, fit in, and a lot of that things going on, especially around this time in this generation. How do you think that you can be a light for God among your friends and at school in general?
All right.
Well, yeah. So you have to ask the question, right? What is a light, right? What is a light? Well, the light shines and reveals things, right? It reveals things. And many times we live in a world where people strive towards the wrong things, right? And it's becoming more and more like what's it called? It's becoming more good to strive for bad things, Like it's becoming more valid to strive for bad things. More people are being more comfortable, like being less having less morals. And in a world full of lies, right? Being truthful is hard, because people will reject you.
Absolutely.
Right? But you have to be comfortable with rejection, because that's the life we live as believers. And you have to be comfortable with rejection.
Oh, yeah. That's
I don't think that's how you become the light, right? There's so many different it's complex, because it's complex to be the light, right? It says in the Bible, we are the light of the world. You should be like the light of the world, right? Like the salt, different from the others, right? And we should be different from others, but there's things that is more complex about that. But one tip I would give to everybody is to be comfortable with rejection, and that goes for I think that's a tip that goes for every single facet of life, because you will be rejected. Like she said, you will be outcast, right?
And I think like that's the most like hardest part, like, you know, trying to like be uncomfortable, like that's the hardest thing to do. Like, how are you like just gonna, you know, you like, since like you want to blend in, you want like, you care about what others gonna think, you care about like not having friends around you, you care about like not being alone, and being uncomfortable and going out of your comfort zone is gonna be like the hardest part about like all of that. But like I think like you said earlier, like that's the main important thing. Like, you're not working for like you know, you're not doing what you're doing for like others, like to like approval. You're like doing it for like God, and like you're doing it for yourself basically.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like, you guys both have great points, and there's a quote. I have two quotes actually I want to bring up. I just remembered them at the top of my head while you guys were talking. But there's a quote that's about, you know, learning to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And being like in the situations we're put in, it's very uncomfortable to sort of, you know, show our faith out there, right? But that's also where, like, we learn that we have to be uncomfortable. We have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because obviously it's going to be uncomfortable with everybody, you know, not sort of relating to you or sort of, you know, agreeing with your ideas. So you have to get comfortable with that, because that's the only way to shine. And you were talking about like shining, right? The light in the darkness. And how I see it is there's so much darkness going on, so much darkness in the world. And for you to be the light, you know, you have to shine. And shining means illuminating others, right? Yes. So we have to sort of just put ourselves out there, get comfortable, and illuminate others, you know, talk to them, and really just, it's uncomfortable, but share. And again, I struggle with this too. Like, it's so hard to do it. Like, you can say it easily, right? Talk to others and share, but actually doing it is super hard.
Yeah, and especially sharing your faith with your friends, and like just making it known that you're a Christian. It can be really hard because there is a lot of judgment from other people, and the fear of rejection is,
you know,
very like,
what do you guys think about, like, you know, I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's like a mass, like, I don't know, rejection of Christianity. I mean, it's all right. It's all right to be like, it's all right to reject it, right? Nobody, like, everybody has free will. They don't have to accept our truth. But what is it like that when we expect it, right? Where we're like identified as, like, you know, hateful people, right? Yeah. I feel, me personally, I think that's a huge part of that is because, like, you know, Christianity is very popular, right? Was very popular, and in ways it was used in the wrong ways, you know, and especially in in history where there was colonization, it was used in the wrong ways.
Manifest destiny,
right?
Manifest destiny. I think it's a huge part of, like, the Constitution and, like, all the rules of the United States, and it has been used for the wrong things, right? But I don't think it's the doctrine. I think it's the people who used it in a corrupt way. Yeah. And I feel like because of that, there's hate for it because it has been used.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me, like, you know how Gandhi said he likes Christs, but he doesn't really like Christians. Yeah, it's kind of that concept.
Right.
Yeah. Interruption.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point. Like, that's a good point, because not all Christians are good. Right. Christians are sinners, right? But at the same time, we kind of represent, we're flag bearers for God, you know? Yeah. And sometimes when we represent Him in the wrong way, what happens is they, like, you know, I feel like there has been bad representation. Like, you know, slavery was, religion was used to just justify slavery, right? Yeah. But, like, in the Bible, it says, like, I think it says, it does say, like, all man is equal. I actually have it underlined in my Bible that every person is equal, like, every person. Yep. And there's a verse, right? But I feel like at the same time, people, like, I've seen this video, like, where people, like, they took this, like, underlined, they took this one specific verse where there was, like, all slaves should obey their masters. and they say like the Bible justifies slavery, right?
With that, what I was going to say, so what they did back then, I sort of heard about this, right? They had specifically slave Bibles, right? That's what they called it. And they sort of took these phrases out of these, out of context and sort of used it for their own benefit. And what that is, in the Bible, there's so many things, right, that are just sort of you have to dive into to get the meaning. But what they did back then was they got the wrong meaning from it. They got the wrong context. They didn't fully look at it the way we look at it now. And that's where the slave Bible was invented. And that's sort of, where they invented it was just because of their sort of, not just,
I feel like, you know what? I feel like when I'm speaking to my friends who are not Christian, right? When I'm speaking to not even my friends, anyone who's not Christian, I feel like I wish I could just like show them or like teach them, right? When I was like that, like, although our beliefs are different, right? I still love you,
Yeah.
If Christianity is not a religion of hatred, right? If it was, then we would not be here. God would,
I agree.
like, we would be destroyed.
Definitely.
But God's main, like, one of his characteristics is love, right? And we're taught to love our neighbors. And love everybody, right? And I feel like people think just because we're Christians, we're homophobes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who are really extreme, right? Just because we're Christian and we don't believe in that doesn't mean we hate you, right? We still love you.
Yeah.
God loves everybody, right? And we're taught to love everybody too. But I feel like there's a bad light to Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And it's all right if you don't believe in our beliefs, right? That's a philosophy that's taught everywhere now. Like, even to accept everybody's beliefs, right? To accept everybody's sexualities and gender, right? And it's all right if you don't believe in our religion, but that doesn't mean we just because you don't believe in it, we're hating on you,
Absolutely, yeah.
And I feel like there's a really bad light to it, and that's the thing that makes it difficult too. Because if you're a Christian, it does have the reputation. You do have Christianity does have the reputation to be like homophobic or like stuff like that, and to be used for slavery, right?
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to my next question. How do you balance showing love to others and standing firm in your beliefs? Like Bardhan said, we are viewed as, because of our beliefs, we are sometimes viewed, Christians are viewed as homophobes or So I want to ask you guys, how do you stand firm in your belief and show loves to others?
I'm going to say I think I do that by just seeing everybody as sort of like a blank canvas, right? No matter what they've done in the past, no matter, who they are, I just see them as a blank canvas that I talk to and get to know more about, right? Then that canvas starts filling up. Then I know them for, what they are now instead of what they are in the past, what they are not. And I talk with everybody. I don't judge, right? They're a blank canvas. There's nothing to judge. That's how I sort of see it. And I try to be friends with everybody. And obviously some people are not going to believe my ideals, believe my, believe what I believe. Yeah. But again, there's this scripture. In the scripture it says, Jesus does not hang out with, Jesus hangs out with sick people, actually. Yeah. He hangs out with sick people. And they ask him, why are you hanging out with sick people? And he says, if you are, he says, how do I'm not sure exactly the context, exactly
it was,
the reason, but
I think you might be talking about Zachariah.
Yeah.
The tax collector, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Was it that? Or was it a different one?
And Jesus says it's not the healthy.
It's not the healthy,
that needs the doctor, but the sick. Yeah, right. I think I kind of get.
Yeah, the gist of it's not the healthy that needs the doctor, but the sick, right? So, and many people are asking why, if you're a Christian, why are you hanging out with them? Why are you doing this? And like, as being a Christian, we try to spread the light. So it's not just, we're not just hanging out with just Christians, right? Because if we just hang out with Christians, we're going to obviously grow in our faith, but we're not growing in our community. We're not growing in the numbers and helping other people. So that's why it's important to just love everybody.
We've been focusing on the gospel a lot in church, and spreading the light. Spreading our truth, and I feel like just because we're spreading it, right, doesn't mean we're like invalid. Like, what's it called? Like, just because you're spreading the truth doesn't mean like
You're degrading other people's beliefs.
yeah, we're not degrading other people's beliefs, right? Or we're not going out there saying, or yeah, well, there was another verse in the Bible, right? Story. Just because we're going out there doesn't mean we're throwing the stone, right? We're not saying you're a sinner. We're saying we are all sinners, right? And this is the truth. We're presenting the truth.
Yeah, we're not condemning other people, but we're just being a light.
Yeah.
I mean,
among the dark, this
no, there
dark
is no
world.
perfect Christian, you know.
Yeah.
Besides Christ
Absolutely.
himself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, as Christians, right, we can't throw the stone first, and nobody should be throwing the stone first, right? Who am I? Who are you, or who am I to get disgusted at someone for doing a sin, right? When God has forgiven us like every single time.
Yeah.
God
absolutely.
is Christianity is the religion of forgiving, you know, forgiveness. Because that's the only way we are connected to God right now, by Him forgiving us for our sins.
So yes, I assume that your friends do know you're Christians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good to know. Okay, so I want to go ahead and ask you guys one last question.
Yes.
So if Jesus was sitting next to you in class,
Oh.
what do you think he would say to you?
That's a good.
It's an interesting question.
That's a good. If he was sitting next to me in class.
I would be cooked. Because
That's a really like. It may not sound that deep, but like.
I don't think Jesus would like me being on my phone in class.
That's a really good question. You
Yeah,
got
go
us.
ahead and answer it.
I think he would, knowing Jesus from the Bible, what we've read about him, and he would definitely talk to us. He would definitely ask us or like talk to us, and what he would do is the complete opposite of what we would do, right? Because knowing Jesus, he would talk to us and he would spread his faith in a way that doesn't put us down, but instead sort of enlightens us. It's kind of hard to explain it, but the way he does it, the way he spreads his faith doesn't put anybody to shame. It doesn't make anybody feel down. It sort of just
I agree
redeems
with that.
them, right?
I had a friend. He was very like he was very progressive, right? He was not Christian, right?
Yeah.
But he believed that Jesus Christ did exist. He believed that Jesus as a person did exist, right? And he said one thing that stuck to me, that Jesus was not just a normal person, but he was revolutionary, you know? He was a revolutionary because his ideas were so different from all of the ideas, you know?
Yeah.
Of course he was Christian. He believed in the doctrine of the Bible, right? He was God himself, right? And he was spreading the truth. But at the same time, his truth was so different from the people that the Old Testament, the people who believed in the Old Testament, the Pharisees, right? And what happened to him? He got rejected, right? He got killed on the cross. And I feel like if Jesus was there in class with me, right?
Yeah.
He would say something so like, mind blowing.
Yeah.
That I would probably not be focusing in class.
Well, mine's. Well, I'm not really sure what to say. It's like he said, it's a deep question. You have to think a lot. But he'd probably tell me to go out and talk more, because I'm not a talkative person. But during class discussions or anything, when we're told to talk about certain things, sometimes we get the feeling we want to talk about God, but then you get scared.
Yeah.
What if
I have that all the time.
everybody would say someone would say something, or they would look bad at you? I'm pretty sure he would encourage me.
Yeah,
he would
we've
tell me
all
to,
been there.
go
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
talk and
You know
stuff
those those motivational quotes, right? That change the perspective of your mind.
Yeah.
I feel like he would say something even deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely, he would.
Yeah.
You can say love is good, right? Everybody knows love is good. You can say not lying is good, right?
Yeah.
But saying something deeper than that, right? Something that connects with your own life.
Yeah.
Imagine someone came up to you and said, "Hey, you should have not cheated on that test. That is bad, right?" Imagine he says something. I feel like Jesus would say something personal to you,
Yeah.
because he knows us.
It's
He's
absolutely.
God himself, and he would probably say something that that has effect in our life.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine meeting the incarnation of God Himself as in flesh. You know,
You're right.
that's. I'd pay a lot of money for that.
You'd pay a lot of money for that. Well, good thing we don't need money because
Yeah.
we have the Bible, and by reading it, we get closer. So that's the great thing about God.
Yeah, so that was a great talk, everyone. So I really want to thank you guys for taking this time to, kind of reflect with me.
Right.
And I know that, these are some simple questions, and sometimes, yeah, these are simple questions, but they are quite deep when you think about it. And I know that we may not always have the answers to them, but eventually as we live out our life, I think that we will find answers to this very simple questions. So I want to thank you guys for joining in.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
And I hope that you guys I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation as just as much as I did.
Before we end this, I want to say to anybody watching in the future or in the present or whatever it is for you, and in my future, in your present, the things we said in our life, they could probably be reflections for your life. We don't know if you're a teen. We don't know if you're watching. We don't know what aspect of life you're watching from, what perspective. But I want to encourage everybody who's watching to just learn to strive to learn more about God.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't, even if you're a non-believer and you're watching this, I want to encourage you just take that one single opportunity to open, let your curiosity take over and learn about God.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you guys for joining in, and I want to thank anyone who's watching for listening in and joining in on in our conversation. So before we go, I do want to leave you guys with a message that no matter where you are in your life or where you are right now, that God loves you, and this whole process is, a learning process. So let's learn as we go now, shall we?
Yeah. Woo.